how's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Foes and Fortunes. This is a pretty interesting plot arc. I mean, Foes and Fortunes, a slasher, but also giving people good luck. It's an interesting idea that calls back to some earlier hack/plot arcs, but really does reinvent them and do its own thing with them. For example, the reporters in the paper are saying the Meat Man's back. Now, the Meat Man is what people called Vlad back when he was in Chicago, but Cassie and Vlad were able to find the real killer, the Mosaic Killer, and the idea that he's back, the very first slasher that brought them together, that's obviously going to get them very, very interested. But when he does come back, he is in a very different form, not just being a lot more decayed, but also being controlled by someone, and there are a few other interesting changes in this character as well. It's not just the Mosaic Killer again, although that being said, we never really did get to see everything that happened in Chicago. I would be curious to see the original version of this, but this is new and changed and different. But also, that person trying to control the slasher is saying, hey, if he's going to go out and kill people, what if I can do some good with it? What if I can somehow use this energy and these statues of Santa Morta and transfer that into some good luck and try to help some people out? And when you find out who this slasher is, and why they're doing all this stuff, and why they're trying to at least make some good out of it, it is a really interesting character with a really interesting backstory, and I wound up thinking this plot had a lot going for it in a whole lot of levels. Now, while we get a bunch of cool setup stuff and a bunch of cool tying back to the past with this plot, it does of course get to be a big, crazy, over-the-top action sequence toward the end of it, and with the new cartoony kind of art style, they really did capture some of the bigger, more expressive moments, and I really did like this story. I thought it was pretty fun, and can definitely recommend it, and can't wait to see what else comes out of this book. Anyway though, if you guys want to see a little bit more of the story and a little bit of the art, let's switch over to the close-up camera. I won't be doing any major spoilers, and I'll try to steer away from the end. But all that being said, let's switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle taking a closer look at Foes and Fortunes. Once again, we are inside of Omnibus 3, and Tim Seeley, of course, is the writer. And we get Bryan Baugh back doing the art. He's the guy who did Sons of Man, the previous two issues, and we can see that this is number 26 and number 27. We then flip to the cover, and we get to see this nice cover of Santa Morte there, and it's got a really cool design to it, and we get to see Cassie and Vlad on opposite ends of her. I will say, I'm sad that my omnibus doesn't have a cover gallery, because there's a really cool cover for this featuring Libby and the Mosaic Killer in a style reminiscent of the very first Hack/Slash issue. It's a fun throwback cover, and I wish it was in here. Anyway, after that we get into the story proper. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do want to break down and analyze a few things, say my piece on a few plot points, and show you guys some of the story and the art. I'll try to be avoiding the end bits though, but without further ado, let's dive in. We open up with Chicago, and the narrator is quick to point out that people don't think of Chicago as being a very holy city, but miracles do happen there, and we get someone leaving a little statue of Santa Morte at this family's house and running off. The guy doesn't know what it's for, and we get to see that it is, of course, Libby who left the statue, and she's got a bunch more of them in her bag. We then cut to the Hack/van, but something very strange is going on in there, as Cassie is just waiting around, and then Sam shows up, and the two really do start to hit it off, and we get this moment with the knife, which there's something that came out later from Hack/, and I'm thinking this might be a repressed memory from Cassie. When you get there, you'll recognize it. But that being said, I do like this idea. You know, first off, we get Cassie telling Vlad no more crushes, and no, that's a lie. But also this dichotomy between Georgia and Sam, the idea that one represents a normal life and the other is literally a slasher, clearly representing two different paths that Cassie could choose to go down, and which one does she decide to end up with. There is one more section toward the end of this that I really like, where she tells Sam to keep the mask on. Ah, Cassie. Well, this, of course, is just a fantasy, and Vlad walks in at Cassie in a very awkward moment. The two try to talk and forget about what just happened, but Vlad brings up how Cassie did back in issue 10 kill a bunch of kids that were slashers, and ask why those are different than Sam, and why they let Sam live, and it's a really interesting place. However, the conversation is quickly interrupted when they realize, hey, there's a news story about the Meat Man returning. And then, of course, the story that they're missing, local man wins jackpot. We cut back to these two and we see that they have the Mosaic Killer locked in this fridge here, and they're talking about how they're using magic, but trying to get something good out of it. If this slasher is going to be killing people, maybe they can use the magic to at least turn some of that energy into good luck for people. However, Cassie and Vlad have got to go. Cassie and Vlad get on the phone with Chris, and it turns out he was actually just about to tell them about the Meat Man and how someone on social media had just contacted him a bit ago, and that they're going to meet her and find out where this guy's been hiding. We also get that Chris has set up social media accounts for Hack Slash in order for people to leave tips. But that being said, what you're doing, I'm not sure if this is entirely legal, going out and hunting down slashers. I don't know if the social media presence is a good idea, Chris. Oh, but Chris does tell them about the baby, and Vlad is happy and Cassie is worried. And turns out Chris may be a little nervous as well. Cassie remembers the Mosaic Man and talks about how his father abused him and thus physically mutilated him, and when he became a killer would sew pieces of his victims to himself to kind of try to rebuild his image. He worked for the mob a little bit, and when they turned on him, he came back to life and started hunting them all down. The Mosaic Man, of course, was confused with Vlad, who was known as the Meat Man at the time, and that caused Cassie to come over and look for him. They meet the girl that Chris found online, who we know as the friend of the person controlling the slasher, and they go in fully armed, ready to fight this guy. Cassie and Vlad, it turns out, know it's a trap, but things still go south when he pops out, and it looks like he's all gross and dead looking now, so that's pretty cool. And of course, maybe these two don't quite have as much of a handle on the situation as you might think. And why I won't say who exactly they are or what their deal is, I will say that it does tie back into things that the story had set up, and I really do like how, in retrospect, I really should have saw it coming. I won't go too much farther in the plot, but needless to say, there is a big bombastic fight scene towards the end of this. And while we're here, I will mention that there are a few more setups and check-ins in this issue, including Kat Curio was actually not dead, but in a coma, and she's waken up after 13 years and trying to figure out what happened to her life. Poor Kat there. I wonder how she's going to deal with things. We also check in with Love Bunny and Mr. Hell, and if you remember back in Entry Wound, Mary Shelley Lovecraft was banished there, and now the color out of space is spawning in the field. That's going to be something interesting as well. I do like how Love Bunny and Mr. Hell are making more and more of an appearance in this comic. Overall, a really fun issue, and I really did enjoy it. Some big, fun, over-the-top moments towards the end, and I really did like how this story made something new while tying it back to several other older plot points, like getting to see the Mosaic Man, and to get to learn a little bit more about him and see what his deal was, and plus the interesting way that he has changed since last time really makes this a very interesting story, and like I said, cool pieces of the lore coming together and then turning into a fun, over-the-top, action-heavy climax. I like Foes and Fortunes, it's really fun, and I can't wait to get to the rest of this omnibus. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my hack slash playlist. If you guys want to see me talk about a lot of the past issues, you can find those there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist here. Have a good day now.